that they make that shh, don't speak, just hear, listen. Okay, don't speak. And they keep, the thoughts and the expression inside, shrinking their mouth. Yes.
The gateways we can find through emotional expressions and particularly microexpressions. Let me just mute my otherwise it's going to be ringing. Yes, microexpressions, as we know, the emotional drivers that run our show are constantly being expressed in different ways, and certainly the microexpressions are gateways to understanding how is it that people are feeling at that particular moment. We were sharing those insights on how, for example, when beginning a relation, a communication, let's say a negotiation, a discussion, a sales pitch, and if we see that if we're meeting someone and we see that they are scanning with the eyes constantly all the place, that is an indicator of stress. So if we see someone behaving like that, the first thing that we need is to make him feel comfortable and relaxed in order for them to be more open to our communication, rather to be ready for any threat in the surroundings. Even if it is unconsciously, it mostly it's unconscious, no? So understanding the microexpressions, it's in manifold gateways to develop the situational awareness, because just like this example of someone scanning the environment because they are stressed, they are looking for a threat, this situational awareness allows us to take the proper steps into building up the right kind of relating we need at a particular moment. No? So that would be one kind of a gateway to understand the situation around just by observing the microexpressions. Microexpressions also are gateways in the way or in the sense that it can enable people to find things about themselves. If we want to understand how is it that these microexpressions came to be, we just need to ask ourselves, what's inside that microexpression? No? What's inside for example, closing the eyes, no? Someone would say, I'm paying attention, no? That's probably an intuitive answer to the question, what's inside that gesture? I'm paying attention. When we add a pronoun to the expression, usually that pronoun is related to a particular age. So for example, the answer, I'm paying attention, then the question would be, and how old is the I who is paying attention? And suddenly I might say 15 years of age, not 53 like I am at the present moment, but 15 years of age. That gives me intelligence on how all this expression has been in my behavior that relates to a particular situation which probably defines a moment for me. For example, and what's inside the 15-year-old who makes this expression? I might answer, I need to learn fast in school. It completely took me to an environment in which learning was important. And for some reason, this expression is related to paying attention, no? Like if I am paying attention to a lesson or to a person. So now I can learn a little bit more about someone, a particular age in my case, who was 15 years of age and something happened in that particular stage in life. No? And what's inside that 15-year of age? Oh, a lot of stress, a lot of pressure. And what's inside a lot of stress and a lot of pressure? I need to pass the exams. And again, it's a pronoun, no? How old is the I that needs to pass exams? And maybe it takes me not to 15 years of age, but 10 years of age. So I can explore and visit older versions of myself, or let's say better, younger versions of myself, which in a particular moment suffered a particular situation that conditioned us. So by reading our own microexpressions and learning how to make certain questions allows us for self-discovery. Self-discovery which will take us to face those experiences in life which condition me in a certain way that probably it's not needed anymore. And that would allows us, and this is very interesting because the more we explore these gateways, the more emotional layers we release and we heal. And in terms of beauty, that means that our expression softens because those micro expressions are not built in past versions of us which are needed to be understood and healed. No, when we understand and we heal those aspects of self, there is no unconscious psychic energy to trigger those micro expressions anymore. So our features, our facial features relaxes, and that gives the ability for us to look younger. But also our demeanor is softer because usually when we express something and it's carrying the load of emotions from previous aspects of self, we tend to invest a lot of energy and we project a lot. So we tend to be less projective. And the less projection we put onto others, the more soft the interaction turns. You can see this every day. If I am very strong on my facial expressions, people are like, wow, no, he's very angry. That guy is full of anger. And maybe it's not, it's just the echoes from past experiences that are still triggered with emotional energy that can be invested in a different aspect in our lives. So by exploring these gateways, we also integrate the psychic and life force, which is invested in support past experiences. And that gives us more integrality in our and the psychic energy we place into things in order to have more clarity on how we understand the particular situations we are living in present times. That allows us to be more situational aware because we don't come from past emotional triggers, no? And that opens up the path for genuinity, because the less conditioned my expression is to past experiences, my present self expresses with more genuity. And that is very, very healthy because there is no fixed emotions, fixed cognitive biases. No, we are more free. And the more free we are, the more clarity we have to understand things the way they are. And that builds up. It's like a virtuous cycle in which we are feeding with good energetic energy our present selves instead of being fueled by past experiences that are unconscious. We don't even know they are there. So the gateways, I think it's very appropriate for our roundtable this time.
Yes.
And we can explore limitless, certainly.
Exactly, because I like 2 points. First of all, that you mentioned powerful to start navigate and start exploring slowly, that each time, every time that we say, I feel like that, behind this there is another layer, another emotional layer. So it's good, like you are doing with your coaching, people, to help people and support people to get a release and to release all this emotional baggage. It's good that we are having, otherwise we cannot adapt in the society, the family that we were raised. And another gateway, I like this, all this emotional, that it is the style that self-awareness, we're discovering and exploring our own self. It's also the communication part that we mentioned also before about micro expressions. It's about the engagement that we are having with other people around us. And especially if it is something risky, as it is, you mentioned correctly, negotiation, that the emotions are so high and the stakeholders are so strong and high. So you need there to have your emotional preparation and to keep calm in order to understand what is playing, what is the energy in the field. The energy in the field, of course, if we see people that are triggered with their expressions, or if we see all this emotional on the face, we can understand, we can support, or maybe we are feeling this emotional anxiety. We're having only this time frame, and it is something very strong that we have to negotiate, and there is no more time. And the other person is starting and talking about different things, about, I don't know, other, in order to engage, like an icebreakers, let's say, for the beginning, how you are going to bring this person into presence in order to say, then you have to be very gentle, and you will see his face, how he's reacting, and softly and with politeness, of course, all the time, you can share with your face, you are aware about your facial expressions, because if you're angry, the other person will feel that you ignore him, you don't want to connect. So maybe you break the negotiation. But if you are aware from your facial expression, and then you go to the other person and say, it's very interesting, you show this enthusiasm, I like what you are sharing, I wish we have more time we can catch up later, but let's see, we have this 20 minutes time frame in order to see if we can get within a result about what is bothering us. I mean, you can play if you are totally aware about your expressions, if you know what triggers you, if you know what is inside you, and slowly you are trying to release. So in communication, emotional intelligence and micro expressions, they are going very well together. But Sophia, what is your opinion with your clients? What is happening? Tell us your experience and your storytelling with clients that you communicate and you see their faces.
After, because it's very important, after the 25 of years experience about the beauty and the women, close to them is very important. The body language, the way that you are standing in front of them, or close to them, or above to them, because the station, it's different when we make the body, when we make the face, when we're standing and discuss with them. So even when you share with them the storytelling, as you mentioning now, when that's the most important way to be close to them and to trust me. It's just to speak with them like, I understand you, I know what you mean, I know what you want, because I am in the same way sometimes with you. I know that you want to lose kilos, because I had much kilo, and I know how do you feel when you have the stress and you want always to eat something just to feel fullness. But because I know how it is, it's not just the words. I come close to them, I just start my voice to slow down, and I speak with them, and then you feel them like, okay, release themselves, and they smile on me, open the eyes, and they want to hear me, and they trust me, and they say, yes, tell me, what's the protocol, how you can help me. So you see, it's not all the same easy, but the most of the time, because of the experience, I know how to come close to them. It's very simple, because we are all humans, okay? And we have our stories. So share a story with them, and after will be more easy to come close to them and to trust you, and you build a kind of relation, even it has to do with the business, and we start with that kind. But for me, the most of them, it's like a family. I have clients 25 years since I start to work as a beautician. That is very important. It's so more close to me. Imagine you, Roxani, we are starting like this, and we are together 10 years now. Imagine how I come close to you.
Exactly.
So, my
yes.
son.
Yes, it's okay. You can mute a little bit your voice in order to, and I discuss with Mr. Jorge here, our coach. So perfect. What Sophia said about storytelling and about finding similarities in order to connect with her clients. Very good, very strong persuasion technique also as well, isn't it, Jorge?
Totally. The one of the most interesting features of communication is that it is more effective when it comes with an appealing story. The history of humankind, it's built upon stories. No, we know that there are ancestral stories that are constantly being played in our lives, and actually, when we think on how we organize reality in our minds, we need to relate them to a particular script, like if it was a movie, if it was a fairy tale, because that allows us to be more able to understand fast. As a way of learning how stories are important, I want to share a little bit. When we learn, the best way to learn how to read, when we're learning how to read, the best way to learn is through comic books or comic strips, because we have a grasp of the story of what's being conveyed in the drawings. It's easier for an elemental mind like the kid to make sense of what the pictures are, because they portray a story, and it's easier to associate words to the elements of those drawings, knowing that the story is flowing in a particular way. So one of the first and the most important ways of conveying learning is through stories. We know the Bible, it's full of parables and stories about different anecdotes which convey learnings. No? So when we know how to relate through stories, we are opening another gateway. And certainly the emotional component that goes with storytelling, it's amazing, because you can see the people. It's very interesting. We have these neurons, the neuron systems in the brain, which allows us to empathize with the people we are interacting. And by engaging in stories and sharing the story with emotion, allows for people, for their connections, to be ready to feel the story that is being told. So when you tell a story, whether it's a business story or the story of someone who turned very beautiful after a treatment, or the story of like a testimonial of someone using your cream, it's the way that we relate, we put in the people's place, no? And that is a powerful driver, because if the person is feeling the story or the tale in first person, taking that person, evolving that person in the story, it's really easy. And it allows for better connections. It allows for clearer message conveying. And certainly we can build upon the stories. There are different communication techniques in which you tell a story within a story within a story. And it's hypnotical in a good sense, no? You are, wow. You can see that in the movies, no? So all that are the nuances of a very precise communication skills that we need to develop. And the building blocks are the microexpressions, because that is the fine-tuning between the relation that comes into play when these stories are being told. So if we're mindful of those microexpressions, the depths of connection that we can get with the people we talk around, with our kids, our collaborators in the business, in our working place, it's very deep. It can really bring our leadership to a new dimensions.
And Sophia, also we say with Jorge before that it's very smart that you use similarity, because you have also the same experience with your own clients. So that's why it's also, this is another parameter that you get engaged and close with your clients. And also I like Jorge's part that he take it to another level and goes to explore the business storytelling, that a lot of people, they are interesting to learn, and the companies they are hiring people to do it, to create their stories. But Jorge, isn't it that first we have to know about our vision before we hired anybody to help us with our storytelling, if we are business or if we are coaches, or we have to know the vision. How deep, if you could help us now, right now, to guide us, how to create a vision. What is the meaning of the why? Find your why. The people say, you have to find your why. You have to know this why. And people, they are looking, some people, they say, what is the why? I want just to protect this wine bottle and to take the money and the profit. I'm a good person, goodwill. What is my why? The why. I want just to help us right now.
Oh, this is a very deep question, Roxanne. We have to understand something that it's innate to humankind, that we are constantly being conditioned by the world around. So my take into answering this important question of our vision will begin to 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 offer an invitation to explore ourselves and release from conditionings of that which is not me. Because the vision that I will be building upon, it's based on ideas that do not belong to me. So we need to clean ourselves of so many conditionings that are like mental viruses that will be constantly bringing doubts or self doubts on what we are aspiring to do, because it's information that does not belong to us. And I think that is the biggest challenge for a lot of people. When we are in a particular age in which we need to find a vocation, we need to clean from that influence. And then the next step is to connect to that which we love very much. And it has deep connotations because this has relation to our inner identity, which relates to an archetype. If we could find a way to relate with an ideal archetype, which is a frame of identity, and we connect with it, it's going to be easier to find our personal vision for life. I think those are the two conditions that anyone who's a serious seeker of their own true meaning for life needs to address. To release ourselves from those conditionings, of course, the most important ones. No, my father always told me, or my father never led me. Those conditions that are like shackles that keeps us fixed in a place. And the other is to connect with our archetype, because then our nature, our true self will be more available. And when that true self is available to us, it's very easy to build a vision, because it's just the answer of our own true selves. And that is a gift that there rarely is given to people in this present day. So I think the first invitation is to be very decisive into finding that aspect of self, that connection to our own self, from which a vision will be easier to discover.
Jorge, about the archetype that you have shared with us right now. So where there are different, I think, a formula. I mean, each one of us, we got our separate, our own unique archetype. This is the answer, to find the uniqueness.
Yes, the more instinctive archetypes that I can relate to are the animalistic archetypes. And it is not by any chance that the Egyptians, if we go back to history, and some other cultures that are less influenced by the Western modern ways, they observe those archetypes in their cultures in the animal expressions of life. One can relate to physically. I mean, physically we have features that will relate us to certain animals, our totem spirits, if you may, no, because this comes from ancient cultures, and it's a very primal way to find ourselves, because usually nature is fractal, no?
Yes, I know. Yes.
And any structure will replicate in a different proportion in life. As this hermetic saying goes, as within, so without, as above, so below. Yes. Life repeats itself. So it builds itself in blocks, and the most elemental blocks are those found in nature. So if we can relate to those animalistic traits, we'll find aspects of our own true nature, very primal, very very fundamental and certainly closer to the source than any others archetypical ideas. From then on, one can elaborate because it depends a lot on our upbringing, on our conditions in the way we live, no? The countries, the cultures. So the safest bet is to look for those primal archetypes that we all can relate to. So that would be my answer to this question. It's a challenging aspect, but certainly we can find which archetype belongs to our life.
To our lives. And so like that you have explained to us right now, it comes to me to be like, I hear the thought in order to have the simple one unique thought, not the thought that are coming all these conditioned thoughts. So I have to clean somehow my thought or to filter, okay, this is not so, this is comes from this conditioning, this is might like that. What is the pure, the sincere, the genuine thought that represent our archetype, each one of us? So you have all the time, but not all the time. Maybe all the time it's a little bit more. You cannot do it all the time. I don't know. Is there any methodology how to scan your thoughts?
And an archetype would be, what is your favorite movie?
Ah,
The first movie that comes into mind. What was the first movie that comes into mind?
Mary Poppins.
Dirty Dancing. Dirty Dancing.
Oh.
Dirty Dancing. Okay, and then you have to relate to a particular role in the movie. No, you relate with the hero of the movie or the damsel of the movie. There's always one identity. There is one character in the story of that movie that it feels more attractive to us. We relate to that archetype, no? So that would be another cue in the story. What kind of role is being played in that story that it's closer to how I feel? And that will bring you closer to the archetype, no? It can be a hero, it can be the princess, it can be an adventurer, it can be a wise man, it can be someone with passion. So that gives us more information to narrow our search trick. Then the stories are usually backdrops of old stories. And that is very interesting because you may say Mary Poppins or Dirty Dancing, but there are similar stories with the same arrangement of roles being played, which are more ancient. For example, Mary Poppins would be more to a matriarchal role player, no?
Yes.
Mary Poppins is in charge of the little kids, and she has to see that everything works in the house. Maybe this relates with being a hotel manager that needs to be taken care of. I don't know. Maybe that sounds like what you're doing in life, no? Taking care of the hosts and so on.
Of the guest.
Exactly.
To love the guest and to take care. Yes, yes, you are totally right. Now it's made the connection to my brain.
So now you see that from a particular story like Mary Poppins, you find similar structural dynamics that are being played in your life.
Yes, no? You're right. It is.
And then you can relate to a particular archetype. Would that be your natural archetype? Maybe yes, maybe no. It doesn't matter, but we're getting closer to it.
Yes,
some archetypes are going to be ingrained metaphysically to us in ways you cannot imagine. For example, I'm very associated to the story of George and the Dragon. That's usually all the Georges have that archetype because of their name. And George and the Dragon, it's a story that it's a modern story of a Greek version of Perseus and Andromeda and the Kraken. And it's again saving the city, saving the damsel, facing a monster. So you have a mythical story from ancient Greece that it's being played in a modern story of the Middle Ages, which is George and the Dragon. And so the damsel and the dragon, the damsel and distress. So you have two archetypes sharing the same stories. So we're constantly recycling the stories that we have in our lives. And we have to see that story, how ancient it is in relation to the many similar stories. I don't have in my mind right now what would be similar to Mary Poppins in an ancient story, but maybe we can look it for a homework
It's a
and let's
nice
see
idea.
what other roles are in ancient stories that fit the archetype to Mary Poppins. And you'll see more similarities on your life than you can imagine.
I'm sure. I'm sure. Sophia, tell us about you. What is your opinion about? Do you find any similarities about the dancing, maybe the enthusiasm?
The dancing, you know, the romance. That's the two, because that is the Dirty Dancing. It's a romance story with dancing inside that it suits me a lot, because it's a kind of me inside me, because I like to dance, I like to flirt, I like the romance, I like all this. That's why maybe I like it, Dirty Dancing. Yes. Also, one of my favorite was Francis Coppola, the Dracula, long passion and love story. I liked it a lot because the Dracula was so strong, and he's doing the best for the love. So maybe it's what I miss from my life.
Exactly. Yeah. What is the common relation between these two archetypes, Dirty Dancing and Dracula?
The love of a man to a woman.
Exactly. A forbidden romance. That is the underlying. Is
that what I want to live, and that I don't live it right now, maybe. Until
exactly. Right now. So the archetypes give us cues to certain games that we are playing or we should be playing. So that gives us another interesting layer of information about ourselves, because when we are in a certain age or we are under certain conditions, there are certain common stories that we all live. And maybe this, I don't know your life story, but maybe in the past that something relates to a forbidden love because geographically it was impossible, because different religions, or because the moment wasn't appropriate. So as you can see, the archetype takes us to a moment in life in which that story was being played, and it didn't play the way you wanted.
That's what I wanted to live, and it's forbidden to live it.
Exactly. So you can see we're facing another feature of how archetypes can give us knowledge about ourselves.
And the next beautiful part of our character, or our deep, genuine character, what is then the next step? How we can release ourselves from the condition thoughts and the condition emotions? How we can just a little bit, step by step, what is let's say the first step that you can advise us?
When we observe the microexpressions and other expressions, other cues of communication about ourselves, and we begin to explore what archetypical stories I am living in my life, when this insight begins to emerge, and I have more understanding of the unconscious stories I am archetypically playing, I can then explore what is it that is needed in that story that I can fulfill, and I can behave accordingly. And then I can own the story rather than being a circumstantial actor of the story, playing along archetypically without me even realizing. I can choose if I have to keep living that story, or does it serve my system, and I will keep playing it consciously in benefit of the system around. Or I can decide to escape the story, meaning that I already know the story, I already know what archetypical game I'm playing, and if I am not happy with that particular, let's say, destination of the story, I can change the story. So that gives us another level of situational awareness, because now that I see who's being played in the story, what stories are being played, and I know what is the the end result of the story, then I can willingly choose to strategize my relations, my behaviors, my goals, in order to have a different end of the story. If I am living the story of, let's say, Peter Pan, and I don't like the story, I can change the story. It's not written in stone, at least not for me. So the next stage would be to work in those emotional attachments, in those dynamic relationships that are so fixed, that gives the structures to the story in order to boost the story elements. So eventually, if I am defined by certain nature of relations or by certain pattern of behaviors, and I am aware of them, I can begin to play differently. And by repetition and awareness, the story in my life can change eventually to be written in a different destination. Or to just leave the story. I'm not going to play this character anymore. I'm not going to be the savior anymore. So for me personally, that was very important because I used to tend to be more like a rescue kind of archetype.
Okay.
That's a feature of my archetype. But I cannot be saving the world. No, nobody can.
Nobody.
But unconsciously, I would try to do so. So now I don't. I am more selective on how I engage these archetypical dramas that are presenting unconsciously in my life now that I am aware of them. So when we don't have the emotional triggers, the emotional structures that drive us into those games, we can play along without getting hooked, getting attached to them, or we just don't play. Somebody else will fit the role. If I'm in a system in which a savior is needed, that I do not want to play the savior, somebody is going to play the role eventually, because that's the destination of the story. I can choose now if I want to be part of that story or not.
I like this part. So you mean, let's say that we're having a big table and there are all seats around the table. So if I decide that I don't like this chair and I move there to the other chair just because I want to change the game because it doesn't serve me, this archetype, all what you have beautifully shared with us, then somebody else will fit the chair?
Yes.
Yes. This is because it's the nature and it is the fractural that has to repeat.
It is in a level of operation in our social fractals. It does work like that. This has deeper connotations. If I do not identify with the particular role that it's being played, I release from that identity, I will eventually begin to realize my own true identity, which has nothing to do with my gender. It has nothing to do with my nationality, with my race. We're speaking about the highest identity, which is the spiritual identity, our own true nature. So the promise of this game is being a state. The Buddha does not identify with anything. Really, that's the nature of true awakening. I do not identify. I merely am.
Yes.
In the present, there's no need to identify with anything, just pure consciousness. This is the highest spiritual truth, nothing other than consciousness. And in the right moment and the right action will give me the right way to manifest myself. I don't need a vision. Vision is not needed because everything is attained. In that state of beingness, everything is attained. There's no need for vision.
Then we come, then all this, let's say, about find your vision, find your, then it's meaningless because if you are in a very high level of spirituality, then there is no need for vision because
exactly
it's a different game. But still we get to this game, we have to find a vision.
But interestingly, when we grow more aware of ourselves, we tend to depend less on these strategies because it's valid, no? Wider vision, all those are tools. They enable people to find what they need. I mean, they are useful. and eventually they won't be useful in a certain level of consciousness. Some other tools will be needed, not the conventional tools of coaching
Of
and
course.
business development. This is practicalities for the mundane world, certainly very needed and very useful. And eventually those tools are not needed anymore. We just do what we know it's needed, no? Because when we have that higher degree of awareness of ourselves, we know what we came from. We don't need a vision. We don't need a vocational orientation. We know who we are. And when we know who we are, it's just fun. It's just service, you know, you're serving to others. If I need to be the savior, okay, I'll do it.
Yes.
On my own terms. Not because I'm unconsciously engaged into a particular game. No, it's completely on free will.
Yes. This is how, yes. Sorry, Jorge, please finish the thought.
This brings us to one of the most difficult paradoxes to solve, which is the problem of freedom.
Exactly. That's why as you have described it, it is like we have some chains. There are some strong chains that we want to get released from these old chains by, and this we're going to do it only if we're starting consciously to observe the face as microexpressions or the body, or we do the work in order to be free of any practicality tools, because we will know why we came here, and it will come naturally. And then we all together, if all of us do this work, then it will be this, let's say, consciousness that connects us all. And we know that we are all one, this beautiful energy of high.
Life will inform us what is needed from us. And that's, in my experience personally, I can attest to that. That is magical. I mean, life will just let you know where to go.
Yes.
Jesus Christ didn't build, or Buddha, no? They didn't build a vision. They just did what they came to do something, and they just did it.
They did it like
and
that.
Look what they've done, no? It's amazing, though. Of course, we have these role models, no? For certain aspects. A role model as a father, maybe my parents, maybe your parents. I don't know. That depends on our upbringing. Some role models are imbued culturally, no? Locally, our historical role models, and then are the business role models, no? Elon Musk is the one, it's the famous one, no?
Yes, Elon Musk.
Few years ago was Steve Jobs, and then Bill Gates, and
Jack Ma, and
those are just icons. I mean, there's no substance there. They're just icons.
Yes, but do you know something? Because with the socialization, since we know that it is about role models, it's so very deep again, a very deep topic, because role models for the beginning, for the first stages, it's very good and practical to have it. Because if somebody has reached one level that in your present time, you think that you want to reach this level, it will help you to follow how he does, and it will be motivational somehow. And you can take ideas, we can do, yes, it is an icon of this particular society that we are got. But anyway, maybe the role models also, they have a deeper level, and there are also other layers that if you get knowing them, things like that, that will also help and support your development in general. We don't know. They might also reach spiritual field. We don't know if we don't know them. So but it's good the role models, because it's also because you can understand, why do I like Elon Musk? Why do I want to see Jack Ma to talk? For me personally, I like Jack Ma. Why do I respect this man? What is totally another culture, different? It is his storytelling. So we return back. He was alone. He got to the decline in so many jobs. Even McDonald's, they didn't hire him. He tried. He got a new spirit idea. His relatives invest on him. All his effort, he got this brilliant idea, and he's now successful. And his talk, it's very powerful for the young generations. So it's all these things that again reveal a part of our archetype, or a part that we are connected somehow, that we have to understand, this is me, or this is, I am conditioned to like this man. It's you have to be very, yes, I like Jorge.
Yes.
Thank you so much for this presentation. In the beginning, we say we're going to do the round table, but your knowledge is so deep. So we're very proud of having you.
Oh, thank you. We just had a round table for today as well. So
Yes, we're going and we are planning for next week. If all things going well, we're going to do another. Otherwise, we're going to give to our friends that they are watching us now. We're going to give this round table, and then we will see what the next round table will be. So everybody, thank you for watching us. Thank you so much, and see you soon.
see you soon. Thank you very much.